In 1990, when the Super Nintendo launched in Japan, Nintendo had struck a deal to launch Capcom's hit beat-em-up Final Fight to its console. It was a launch title for the console, so in response, Sega themselves thought it was time to strike back with a beat-em-up of their own. They called it Bare Knuckle, or as many others know it as, Streets of Rage. Today, I am SamuraiT-X and we'll be looking at its history, plot and my personal review on the game that got this franchise started. With Streets of Rage 4 due to release at the end of this month, with what little time and preparation I had to make this review, I thought it was my time to go unscripted and give my own words on these games. So let's start with how it got developed and the brains behind this masterpiece. Developed by the AM7 of Sega, one of the divisions that were devoted to just the Sega Mega Drive and Genesis, the project was now headed by a veteran in the company, Noriyoshi Oba. He recently just finished the project in Revenge of Shinobi, which was defining in its own right. He would design the game with Hiroaki Chino with Hitoshi Momota as the programmer. With all the pieces in place, there was only one piece of the puzzle missing, the composer, Yuzo Koishiro, who also just developed one of the finest music scores in the Sega Mega Drive's cycle. Who they worked with before on the Revenge of Shinobi, Koishiro was inspired by techno and house. He wanted to introduce this genre to the video gaming world, and it certainly worked wonders. It's etched into people's minds to this very day, my own included. He used a Roland keyboard to give the soundtrack its club music in its glory. They wanted the game to be released by 1991, and your question will be for today, did it satisfy the fans? Well, judging by the response years later, the answer is yes. So why don't we play this masterpiece and start off with the game's introduction, shall we? This city was once a happy, peaceful place, until one day, a powerful secret criminal organization took over. This vicious syndicate soon had control of the government and even the police force. The city has become a center of violence and crime where no one is safe. Amid this turmoil, a group of determined young police officers have sworn to clean up the city. Among them are Adam Hunter, Axel Stone, and Blaze Fielding. They are willing to risk anything, even their lives, on the Streets of Rage. As you're looking at the three protagonists getting introduced on the screen, Mr. X has overthrown the government and even the police force. So, with that being done, three young people have decided to take matters into their own hands, leaving the police force, becoming vigilantes, and now they want to clean the streets of all these criminals. So, Mr. X better prepare himself, as there is 8 stages of fun. If this intro doesn't get you excited for this game, then you're definitely watching the wrong channel. But without further ado, I believe it's time to look at the options. As you can see on the options screen, it is pretty basic. It has the sound test options, and I spent a lot of time on the sound test options when I was younger. Of course, there was no YouTube, and this was the only real way I could listen to the soundtrack, so I decided most of my time when I didn't want to play the said game yet, I would listen to some of the music. And it's definitely still excellent to this very day. I'm very guilty of doing this, and I'm very guilty of still doing it now. Even if I have my computer, I sometimes put in the game and still listen to the music. That's just me. And then you have the difficulty options. You can spice up the difficulty, or you can lower the difficulty. So there's 4 choices. You have easy, normal, hard, and hardest. So you can toggle at your own pleasure. Of course, my recommended thing is to go easy if you're new to the game. But me, when I was younger, I always played on normal. So these days I probably play on hard or hardest sometimes if I'm in the mood. But mostly it's always normal to hard for me. And then there's the buttons. So you can toggle between 3 options. Of course, my personal preference is to keep it the same: A for special attack, B to attack, and C to jump, but everyone else has their different preferences, so this was a pretty good addition to this game, that you could switch your buttons whenever you wanted to, in the menu screen of course, but you know, some people mostly kept it the same. But it's cool that it's there, right? So without further ado, let's talk about the characters. Now that we've exited the options screen, I believe it's time to look at the character bios. So, here we are with our 3 protagonists. Adam Hunter, age 23, and his ability is boxing. Then you have Axel Stone, who is age 22, and his ability is martial arts. And then you have Blaze Fielding, who is the youngest member in the team, and she does judo as her fighting style. And as you can see, these 3 members used to be cops, but then they became vigilantes, because they have to take matters into their own hands to clean the streets. So, now that we've looked at the characters' bios, I believe it's time to go to the character select screen to show their fight stances and their stats. Now that we've exited the character screen, here you have Adam, who is the strongest and has the best jumps, but is by far the slowest character in the game. And then you have Axel, who has great power and great speed, who is considered the all-round character in this game. And then you have Blaze, who is the fastest and the highest jumper and by far the weakest. But that shouldn't discourage you, as she winked at us. That means pick her. So without further ado, let's go through the stages. Stage 1, City Streets. So, in the background you have Blaze finding her way through the stage 1, the city streets. It's iconic for many reasons these days, as it's the first ever stage you fight on in this franchise. The gameplay is as simple as it looks. If you've played other beat-em-ups before you will definitely have the hang of this very quickly. But you'll have to be on your toes throughout, because like Golden Axe before this game, Streets of Rage has enemies appearing from the left and right sides of the screen, and it can also overwhelm you in numbers sometimes, when the maximum numbers can be sometimes 5 or 6 enemies on the screen at once when you're playing solo, so be very careful. But stage 1 is very nice to you, as it does give you little enemies on the screen at once, but as the stages go on it will be very difficult. But the enemies you fight on this stage are Garcia, Signal, Nora and Hakio. They will be the standard enemies you'll be facing throughout the game, with colour swaps showing that they become a bit tougher. Like Final Fight and Double Dragon, you can use weapons at your disposal to wipe out any enemies you see fit. My personal favourite weapons were either the baseball bat or the steel lead pipe. Both of them are very slow at attacking, but very powerful, and do devastating damage, can kill enemies within 2 hits, or 3 sometimes. But the other 2 weapons in the game are the glass bottle and the knife. Very strong in the stabbing, and with the knife you can throw it by moving forward and pressing the attack button. And if you stab your enemies, sometimes they can die instantly, or they'll be close to death, so it does a lot of damage. But my personal favourite weapons, like I said, are the baseball bat and the lead pipe. You probably know why. I guess I use these as my version to get a home run with them. It's so satisfying when you hit them and they go far, and you just hear them scream in pain. Oh, the joys of beating enemies with a lead pipe or a baseball bat. However, with these weapons, they do take 3 times. If you drop it 3 times, they will disappear, so do not get hit, otherwise you will drop them. And in this game as well, you get recovery items. First you get an apple, which at least restores 20 to 25% of your health. And then you have the beef. The beef restores all of your health completely, so if you're in danger and you need to use it at your leisure. But don't walk away from it, as sometimes if you do see these healing items, they're not going to follow you, so you have to pick it up. Otherwise, if you scroll past it, you'll miss the chance to pick it up. The first boss you engage in this level is Antonio. He will always be an iconic boss because he is the first one you face. His attack is a boomerang projectile or a boot. Both do devastating damage, but he's rather an easy opponent to beat. If you've carried the lead pipe or any other weapon, I carry sometimes the lead pipe or the baseball bat, and I can hit him from far so that he doesn't hit me. So yes, you can time it when he's on the floor, you can hit him as a strategy. Or you can hit him by following his pattern. So if he tries to walk close to you, make sure you're underneath him, and then you can go up and then try and grab him. But if you do get in trouble, use the police cars at your disposal. After defeating this level, you go to the score screen. Every time you hit 50,000 points, you get yourself an extra life. So 50,000, 150,000, 250,000, and so on and so on. You will get an extra life each time. I believe it changes in the sequel, which we will talk about in the next video. Stage 2. So here we are at the inner city. It's away from the nice city streets and with more of a breezy weather. The atmosphere around you has changed dramatically. As you can tell, these places are messier than usual. It seems nobody visits this area as such. So, the last enemy type that is in this game is Jack. And Jack juggles weapons at his disposal and throws them at you. He throws Molotovs and he will also throw axes. It depends on the situation. If there's more than 2 of them, then they will throw separate things between Molotovs and axes. So, there is a new power up in this level. It's called the Pepper Shaker. Once you throw the Pepper Shaker at the opponent, they enter a sneezing fit and are temporarily stunned. So it's your chance to attack them when needed. What's also new in this level is that you actually do get an extra life. And the icon is right there. And you also get money bags, which are worth 1,000 points. So those are the new things in this level. And the boss you'll be fighting is called Salva. Well, I call him Freddy Krueger or Wolverine either way, because he looks like one or the other. But mostly we'll call him Freddy, because he has the claws in his hands, not like adamantium. But either way, he's Wolverine or Freddy. And if he's much more tougher than Antonio, mostly because he can do a teleport. But don't let him do that. It's either a teleport or quick step. I'll just call it a teleport because he moves from one side to the other sometimes if you let him. But yeah, the strategy is to take him down is by walking underneath him most times, just like Antonio or any other boss, because the pattern is the same for them. And then you can grab him and throw him. Or if you do get in trouble, you can also use the police car to feel safe. Of course, if you're really good at this game, you won't need the police car. But if you're a newcomer to this game, it's highly recommended you do use the police car. Stage 3. You find yourself at the beach. Surprisingly, it's more relaxing in terms of its music and setting. Okay, maybe I'm stretching that a bit too much because you're not relaxing really at the beach. You're still cleaning the streets and this is only stage 3. So the enemies have gotten tougher from the change of colour of their outfits. But you should be fine because you've handled the enemies before you, so you shouldn't really have too much trouble. Plus there's weapons at your disposal to eliminate them, like a baseball bat and lead pipe. They appear once on the stage, but you should be fine if you know how to hold it. So the boss in this area is the Ultimate Warrior. Look-alike anyway, he looks like the Ultimate Warrior. I think that's what they were going with. He was inspired by the Ultimate Warrior with his hair the same and his wrestling gear, and with his pattern the Ultimate Warrior does this running punch which does a lot of damage. He can also grab you, and this will be your best friend, this ultimate strategy to avoid taking too much damage from throws. Press up and C if you're in any trouble and you will land on your feet. You will need this very often as enemies do tend to grab you, so do keep that in mind. I can't believe I'm saying it on stage 3, but that's the first time I've been grabbed, so that's why I'm reminding you to use that at your disposal. Of course, I had to use the police car because I was in trouble. Well, I thought I was going to die, so I used it, but I proved to be safe. So you should be fine if you follow his pattern, but the main way to beat him is when he comes charging at you, just move up and then follow him down and just move diagonal and you can grab him. Just keep repeating it. These bosses fall for the same pattern each and every time, so it's best you do that and you'll be absolutely fine. Just don't fight as scruffy as I did, otherwise you'll probably die. Stage 4. So here we are at the bridge area, and the enemy types that you really do need to watch out for in this level is the signals, because there's a lot of them, and these signals will try to do one thing to you very often, and that's throw you. So please use the up and C buttons to avoid taking damage. You've got to time the up and C so that you land on your feet correctly. And the biggest threat to you as well in this stage is edges. There is a lot of edges in the bridge because you are fighting on a bridge, so you can use them to your advantage by throwing enemies off if it gets too crowded, or you can just punch them off. Just try and not fall off the edge yourself, otherwise you're going to lose a life. Health items are pretty generous in this area as well, and you do get the pepper shaker to, like I said, stun the enemies temporarily, making them enter a sneeze fit, and there is also a chance to get an extra life in this level. The boss you'll be facing is actually Big Billy, or Bongo. In this game he's called Bongo, but I call him Big Billy. And his main attack is his fire breath. So to avoid it, just walk diagonally or just in away from his path. And to get to him, just walk close to him and make sure he doesn't burn you. And one thing you don't want to do with this guy is actually try and do a German suplex, because I'm Blaze, or throw him over your head, because he will crush you. So don't try and throw him at all. So if you grab him, just do your usual melee attack and then hit him. And then you can try and go around him and then just keep repeating that same pattern. Or you can just punch him constantly. It's up to you. Or if you're in danger, you can use the police car to your leisure. But you will be disrupted by enemies, as you've seen the common pattern here. Enemies will keep appearing to distract you from fighting the boss and beating him. So do keep that in mind. Stage 5. Stage 5 is arguably one of my favourites in the franchise, but there's so many good stages in this franchise, but we won't talk about those yet. So you are on a boat, and this is where the game starts to get tougher on you. You'll be facing tougher enemies as they'll wear different clothing, but don't be too discouraged. This is the first level that you'll actually be able to have 2 police cars as backup, as the police icon, which is a toy car, is available in this level. You will face the Ultimate Warrior again as a mini-boss. He's probably still looking for Hulk Hogan, which is why he appears again, just in a different colour costume. And once you beat him, just do the same thing as usual like you did on stage 3, and you'll be fine. And the boss you'll be facing in this level is Yasha and Orihime. In Japan, that's their names, but in US and Europe, they are Mona and Lisa. Remember when I said that using the up and C will be very important because you need to stay on your feet? Yes. These girls like to throw you, and when they throw you from the front like Blaze's throw, just press up and C and you will land on your feet. My strategy for beating these girls is have your back turned, make sure they're not too close to you, so like when they do a jump kick, you can press the C and B buttons to do a back kick and you will hit them. They will either walk towards you so you can press it then, or they will jump kick at you. You gotta time it. But if they grab you to try and German suplex you, use the police car so you don't take any damage. I'm pretty sure if you didn't take damage before you face them, you'll probably hold your beef there until you can eat it so that you don't take damage. But the C and B strategy is recommended. It might take longer to beat them, but it's worth it because they always fall for that trick. The tricks that you've used on previous bosses will not work against these two, so that's my recommended strategy to beat these two. Stage 6. Stage 6 is in a factory. There's 2 gimmicks in this level which I do enjoy. The first being the conveyor belts and the other being the crusher. This level also introduces the Red Garcia or Garcia. The factory is also another level you'll be able to grab a police car, so you have 2 as backup. And you'll also get extra life in this level. This level reintroduces 2 of the bosses you've encountered before. There's Bongo, who's in yellow now, so you can beat him. Just the same pattern as stage 4. Just make sure you don't try and throw him over your head because he is going to flatten you, so don't do nothing like that. Otherwise, you're risking losing an extra life. And God knows how a police car can go on a boat and a factory. That is, well, logic, am I right? But anyway, the next boss fight you will be facing in this level is 2 Freddy Kruegers. And like I said before, the same strategy as stages 1, 2 and 3, and it will work in your favour. But Try not have them both next to you, otherwise they will hit you and do devastating damage. But if you have 2 police cars, use them at your disposal if you're in danger. It will help you a lot and it will beat them very quickly. Stage 7. Stage 7 is the penultimate level of this game, and it's a favourite level of mine and once again in the franchise, which is called the Fright Elevator, or you could just call it the elevator. You're making your way up in the elevator as you face waves of enemy who appear out of the window or somehow drop from wherever floor they're from and land on there. Either way, it's recommended that my strategy for this is either you throw them off the elevator that you're on, or you just get them in a corner and beat them. But I mostly throw them off so that it's just easy, because you do get overwhelmed. So try and get them close to the edge and then throw them over. But don't let them do it to you, like the signals, otherwise you're going to die. But there is also a glitch in this game that you can also do a German suplex and make them fall through the floor. I used to take advantage of that a lot. And stage 7 is also the last time you will see the police as backup, because they can't enter the syndicate building, but they can enter a factory and a boat. Logic, right? But either way, you won't have the police car for the final level of the game. Stage 8. So here we go, it is at the Syndicate headquarters. This is easily the most challenging level in this game. Say goodbye to the police in this one, since you won't be allowed to use them anymore. Besides, it would be crazy if they drove into a building, right? Then again, what do I know? They did drive on a boat and into a factory. But anyway, let's get back onto the topic, shall we, before we get lost trying to question the game's logic. So, here's you are walking backwards instead of forwards as you're walking to Mr. X's office. A nice touch there, as you read manga backwards and you're walking backwards to Mr. X's office. That's a pretty nice touch. You will have trays coming in your direction ready to do minor damage if you don't dodge on time or if you don't hit the tray. You will also be facing multiple enemies as they will be wearing all different colour clothing, so yeah, it will be challenging and it can get overwhelming if you let them go on the screen. So my advice to you is walk slowly so that you don't get a lot of enemies on the screen at once, because if you walk too fast, you will get a lot of enemies on the screen and you don't want to be overwhelmed since you don't have police cars to help you. So do walk as slow as you can so that you can take them out slowly. Me, obviously, because I'm experienced, I let them come. So you will be fighting the mini bosses from stages 1 to 5 in a rematch, and you'll have your work cut out for you for sure. But once you beat them, the final challenge awaits you. It is Mr. X himself. Now this is where the things get interesting. This game actually has 2 endings. One's a good ending and one's the bad ending. So if you are playing with someone, this is the only real way to get that bad ending. Mr. X will give you a dialogue and he asks you, would you want to become his right hand man? So if you're playing co-op, one of you have to say yes and the other one has to say no. And then Mr. X will order you two to fight to the death. After you fight to the death, Mr. X will talk to you again to try and join his organization. If you say yes, you will go back to stage 6, so don't pick that option. But if you say no, you will fight Mr. X and his goons. Beat Mr. X, you get the ending of whatever character you are sitting on the throne and then dialogue line saying you become the boss. You are great. That is the bad ending of this game. This wouldn't make any sense because of the sequels, obviously, so let's pretend we didn't get that one. So let's look at the single player, since we are playing single player. So Mr. X has given us a choice again. If you choose yes, like I told you before, you're going back to stage 6. Not fun at all. And if you say no, you'll be able to fight his goons and fight Mr. X himself. So, after defeating Mr. X, you see the 3 vigilantes standing right in front of him with Mr. X laying on the ground. Presumably you've killed him. You actually get an Arnold Schwarzenegger hand-style clap with Axel and the rocket launcher cop. We don't know his name, so in this case I'll just call him John. Now you guys are driven off to watch the sunset. And that concludes the Streets of Rage story. And that concludes the complete review and breakdown of the stages in Streets of Rage. What is there to say that hasn't been said about this game already? Was this Sega's perfect answer to Nintendo and Capcom's Final Fight? Of course it was. This led to many Nintendo fans going out their way to buy a Sega themselves and buy this game. It was revolutionary in its own right as it kickstarted Sega's beat-em-up campaign to compete with Nintendo. This was an excellent game to start off the franchise. If you want to experience this game yourselves and you're wondering how do you get a chance to do that, you can easily do that these days. You can buy it from the eShop on Nintendo, or you can download it on your mobiles, or like myself and others, you can buy the compilations that have been made. Either the Sega Mega Drive Ultimate Collection, which was released on the Xbox 360 and the PS3, or like the copy I reviewed it on, you can get the Sega Mega Drive Classics on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. The gameplay you actually see on the screen was actually me playing it from the PS4 copy. It's going by cheaply if you wanted to buy it. What's also cool is that you can actually play online multiplayer with a friend or someone else. So I heavily recommend you actually buy this if you want to play this game for yourselves, as it does have all 3 games on them. Now you must be thinking to yourselves right now, after our heroes defeated the antagonist of this game, was this truly the end of Mr. X? Well, find out in my next review of Streets of Rage 2. Like I said in the introduction of this video, it was such short notice that Streets of Rage 4 was given such a release date, and I had to go unscripted with this review, so thank you guys for watching my very first review ever on this channel. I do appreciate it very much if you've reached this far. If you like what you saw, hit the like button, don't forget to share it with your friends and family, and if you want to see my next review, go hit that subscribe button. Also, just so you don't miss out on any of my videos I do upload, please make sure the bell icon is on so that you don't miss out on any of my videos. Again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next review. Take care everybody.